To talk more about the focus of the summit's policy issues this week, we're joined by Frank Samolis. He is the co-chair of the Squire Patton Boggs International Trade Practice and has experience with both policy and trade negotiations. Thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So this is turning into not the feel-good session that the Biden administration certainly hoped for. We now know who's coming, who's out. What do you make of all this?
Well, there was a bit of stumbling in terms of putting together the guest list, as you've accurately reported. I'm told that President Obrador has now been invited to the White House next month in July, so one way or the other, they will resume a diplomatic negotiation. And I think there is still an opportunity for major progress in the area of trade, which is where I think the summit ought to focus. They can come up with possible new free trade agreements. They can modify some existing agreements, and they can take portions of other trade agreements in the area to expand it to other countries. So I think there's still some reason for optimism.
And there's also so much to discuss: immigration, COVID, corruption. But how much will really get accomplished now? The White House banned the leaders of Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. In any way, with your experience, could this come back to haunt the United States?
Well, I don't think it would come back to haunt them. I think they're going to put the best face on it that they can, and I think there is some opportunities here to make some real progress, particularly in the trade areas I get back to. I think there's some things in the USMCA that you remember replaced the NAFTA agreement that could be expanded to other countries in the region. There's one of the additions to the USMCA is something called the Rapid Response Mechanism, and it has to do with providing added labor rights. And just today, the USTR initiated its fourth request to the government of Mexico to come up with some labor investigations. Previous cases have resulted in very effective collective bargaining agreements. There's one that involves the General Motors plant in Mexico. So there's some significant progress there. I'd like to see that expanded.
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, as you know, there's a political shift in Latin America to the left. And even now with Colombia, you see that there may be a far left president in Mr. Petro. So the Biden administration has to come up with some plans that provide some guidance and a path forward. The path forward, in my view, would be adding additional countries to new free trade agreements. I'm thinking of Ecuador specifically, which has made a lot of progress in terms of reducing trade barriers. Even Brazil, that's not going to be a full-blown free trade agreement soon, but we can begin the discussions on the trade agreement like we have with India, for example. You know, it's a way for the administration to stay relevant in the region.
And you use the term relevant because it's so important at this time, because China has made such tremendous inroads in relationships in Latin America. And the U.S., even though proximity is so close, could find itself on the outside looking in.
Yes, and I think they do realize that danger, and particularly as we both realize the political shift in the region. And the best response to that, they're talking about things like sustainability and digital trade and other things, which are important, but I think they pale in comparison to the benefits of additional trade agreements. That would be a way for the United States to stay relevant in the region. If they don't do that, you're right, there's going to be a big opening for China to increase their investments.
With so many leaders of government not there, the challenges is going to be finding some common ground during the summit, and all of these nations coming out at the end for the family photo and smiling. What does the U.S. really want to get across at this point? You talked about trade, but also continuing to foster these relationships has to be very important.
Absolutely. And, you know, unfortunately, the entire Western Hemisphere has always gotten a third or fourth priority in any administration. And there are, you know, problems in the Middle East. They're dealing with China. They deal with Europe. So getting around to Latin America is always a second or third priority. What I think the administration needs to do is to reinforce the notion that we are still active in the region. We still want to come up with viable agreements, and we still want to show that we are concerned enough to make sure we have solidarity with respect to the hemisphere. If not, it's an opening again for China.
Frank, not a lot of time here, but looking forward to the end of the week, what will be the signs, as far as you're concerned, that this was a success?
The signs for me on the trade area would be announcing free trade agreement negotiations. Let's take Ecuador, number one. Number two would be an agreement that the U.S. will produce incentives to what they call production sharing, to come up with ways to try and entice corporations to leave the Far East and to begin assembly operations or expand them in the region. And third would be extending some of the rules from CAFTA and from the USMCA to other countries in the region. That would show solidarity, it would show progress, and in my view, that would be a success. A modest success, but still, I think the administration will take the thing.
We'll take that and walk away smiling, exactly. Thanks so much for all of your insight, and I'm interested to see if the President of Mexico does come next month. Frank Samolis, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you so much.